The Double Life of Family Man, a murder plot nobody saw coming. Before we begin, if you think you've seen Darkness, you haven't seen anything yet. Hit subscribe, like, and drop a comment, because this story slips into the kind of shadows most people never walk out of. No one expected the quiet suburb of Willow Ridge to wake up to sirens that tore open the stillness of dawn. A violent crash echoed down Hawthorne Street, followed by the screech of tires across asphalt. Neighbors peeked out from behind curtains in confusion, unaware that the chase unfolding just outside their windows was tied to a man they all believed they knew, Daniel Mercer, devoted husband, father of two, and respected financial consultant. The chase ended at the edge of a wooded ravine. A silver SUV lay overturned against a tree trunk, steam hissing from the crushed hood like a wounded animal gasping its final breath. Officers approached cautiously, weapons drawn, expecting a desperate criminal. Instead, they found Daniel trapped behind the wheel, bleeding, barely conscious, and repeating the same trembling phrase, "I didn't do it. I swear I didn't do it." 30 minutes earlier, police had responded to a 911 call from a jogger who discovered something horrifying. A body half buried in a shallow creek bed, still partially warm, showing signs of foul play. The victim's ID listed the name Evan Rourke, a 34-year-old contractor known for working odd jobs around Willow Ridge. And the most unsettling detail of all, the SUV captured fleeing the scene belonged to Daniel. Detective Laura Kincaid, renowned for cracking high-pressure cases, arrived at the ravine before paramedics could extract Daniel. She scanned the wreckage with the focused intensity of someone who had seen too many stories end badly. The back of the SUV held Daniel's briefcase, his gym bag, and a single gardening shovel stained with mud that didn't match the soil of the ravine. Daniel was rushed to St. Marlowe Hospital. Meanwhile, officers secured the crime scene and began combing through the creek bed. What they found deepened the mystery. Footprints that didn't match Daniel's shoe size, drag marks indicating more than one person had moved through the area, and, most peculiarly, a torn scrap of blue fabric clutched in the victim's hand. By the time Daniel woke up in the hospital, the police were waiting. His wife, Marissa, sat beside him, her face pale, eyes red. "What happened, Danny?" "They're saying terrible things." Daniel shook his head weakly. "I don't know. I just drove. I was scared. I didn't kill anyone." Detective Kincaid stepped forward with her notepad. "Mr. Mercer, your SUV was seen fleeing a homicide scene. The victim was found a quarter-mile from where your vehicle was tracked. Would you like to explain?" Daniel swallowed hard. "Evan? Evan Rourke? I know him. I mean, not well. He's done repairs at our place. But I haven't seen him in weeks." "That's interesting," Kincaid said. "His phone shows your number as one of the last calls he made." Marissa turned to her husband slowly, confusion mixed with something darker. "Why would he call you?" Daniel's jaw tightened. "I don't know. I truly don't." But Kincaid wasn't convinced. Her years in homicide had taught her to listen to what people didn't say as much as what they did. Daniel seemed terrified, yes, but not necessarily guilty. There was something else behind his eyes, a pressure he was fighting to contain. By midday, Willow Ridge buzzed with rumors. Some said Daniel was running a double life. Others insisted Evan had been involved in shady business deals. A few whispered that Marissa had been seen with Evan too many times for comfort. In a town that fed on gossip, speculation grew like mold in damp corners. Kincaid returned to the crime scene that afternoon. The forensic team had completed their preliminary sweep, and one discovery stood out. A set of muddy tire tracks near the creek that didn't match Daniel's SUV at all. They belonged to a smaller vehicle, possibly a sedan. Nearby, a cigarette butt was found with lipstick on the filter, something the victim didn't use, according to his personal records. 2 people, Kincaid muttered. Maybe 3. This wasn't a simple confrontation gone wrong. Back at the hospital, Daniel was upgraded from critical to stable. Kincaid visited again, this time pushing harder. "Mr. Mercer, you need to tell me everything, even the things that make you look bad." Daniel closed his eyes, visibly wrestling with something heavy. When he finally spoke, his voice cracked. "Detective, I think someone set me up. I think someone close to me wants this to look like I did it. Kincaid leaned in. Who? His lips trembled. I can't say. Not yet. Daniel, she said firmly, you're the prime suspect in a murder. If you know something, now is the time. But he turned his face away, refusing to speak another word. Later that evening, as officers impounded his SUV, a mechanic inspecting the underside found something that sent a ripple through the investigation. A hidden tracker, expertly attached, wired into the electrical system. And that wasn't the worst part. The device had been transmitting locations for weeks. The final ping before the murder led straight back to one unexpected place. Daniel's own home. What investigators found when they searched his basement would shatter every illusion the town had about Detective Laura Kincaid had opened hundreds of basement doors, but none that felt as heavy as the one leading into the Mercer home. The air was colder down there, unnaturally still, like the room had been holding its breath for months. Daniel's family photos lined the stairwell, smiling faces watching silently as officers descended. Marissa stood at the top of the stairs, arms wrapped tightly around herself, her expression unreadable. She had insisted she knew nothing about any tracker, nothing about Evan beyond the routine repairs he'd done in their kitchen. Kincaid didn't believe her. Not yet. The basement was neat, almost overly organized, shelves of labeled boxes, tools aligned with unnatural precision. But what caught the attention of the forensic team was a locked utility cabinet bolted to the far wall, secured with a heavy padlock that didn't match the rest of the hardware. Get open, Kincaid ordered. It took 3 minutes. The moment the metal door swung free, a cold silence filled the room. Inside sat a collection of items that made absolutely no sense for a normal family man to keep. A prepaid burner phone, a greasy envelope stuffed with unmarked bills, 2 SIM cards, a notebook filled with coded entries, and a single photograph. Daniel shaking hands with Evan Rourke, both men smiling stiffly, as if the moment meant something neither wanted others to understand. Marissa gasped, "Danny, what is all this?" Her voice cracked, but Kincaid watched her closely. Shock could be genuine or crafted. Forensically, nothing immediately tied Daniel to a violent crime, but the items suggested he was hiding something important, something dangerous, something that now seemed tangled with Evan's death. When Kincaid returned to Daniel at the hospital that evening, she placed the content of the cabinet on the table beside his bed. He stared at them, his breath catching when he saw the photograph. "You lied, Daniel," she said quietly. "This wasn't just a handyman you barely knew. So tell me again, what were you involved in?" Daniel didn't look angry. He looked defeated. "He wasn't just a contractor," he whispered. He was blackmailing me." Marissa stumbled back in shock. "Blackmailing you? For what?" Daniel's eyes filled with shame. "Something stupid. Something I did before you. And I worked things out." Kincaid remained silent, letting him talk. 3 months ago," Daniel continued, "I met a woman at a conference in Chicago. It was a mistake. One-night conversation, nothing physical. But she took pictures of us together, made it look like something else. Then she vanished. And Evan," Kincaid asked. "He showed up 2 weeks later with the photos. Said he represented her. Told me to pay him, or he'd show them to you, Marissa, and to my boss." The room stiffened. "So I paid him. Once. Then twice. But he kept asking. Kept threatening." Kincaid wrote quickly. But something in Daniel's story was too clean, too convenient. "And the notebook?" she asked. "Codes," Daniel admitted. "Dates. Payments. Every time he demanded more, I tracked it. I started to fear it wasn't just him. I thought maybe someone else, someone more dangerous, was behind it." Kincaid tapped her pen. "So why run? Why flee the murder scene?" Daniel closed his eyes. "I didn't even know Evan was dead. I got a call from a block number. A voice told me to get out now, and that my SUV had been compromised. I panicked. I drove until the police came behind me, and by then, I didn't know what to do." Kincaid wanted to believe him. He wasn't giving the polished statements of a calculated killer. He was rambling like a man drowning in secrets. But there was still one glaring problem. Someone had tracked Daniel's SUV for weeks, and the tracker's signal originated inside his own home. So, you're telling me someone else planted the device? Kincaid asked. Someone who knew your routines, your routes, your family? Daniel nodded slowly. Kincaid turned to Marissa. And you? Did you know about any of this? Marissa shook her head, tears welling. No, I swear, I didn't even know Evan had Danny's number. But Kincaid caught it. A flicker in Marissa's expression, there and gone in less than a heartbeat. Something about Evan's involvement wasn't new to her. She knew more than she admitted, and her fear didn't look like fear of Daniel's secrets. It looked like fear of her own. That night, Kincaid reviewed Evan Rourke's bank statements. Something peculiar stood out. For a man who worked sporadic handyman jobs, his account showed regular cash deposits, substantial ones, over the last 2 months. Someone was paying him, and not Daniel. Meanwhile, the cigarette but found near the crime scene came back with a match, a woman's DNA with no ties to Evan. And the blue scrap of fabric in Evan's hand was from a high-end women's blouse. Not something from Daniel's wardrobe, but definitely something that could be found in Marissa's. Kincaid's mind connected the pieces. The second car, the lipstick cigarette, the fabric, the money, the fear Marissa tried too hard to hide. The next morning, surveillance footage delivered the final blow. A small sedan driving near the creek at the exact window the murder occurred, and the driver looked unmistakably like Marissa Mercer. Kincaid exhaled slowly. Daniel might have been living a double life, but Marissa's second life was far more dangerous, because the footage didn't just show her car. It showed Evan getting into it willingly. Detective Laura Kincaid replayed the grainy footage again and again, each time feeling the noose of the truth tighten. Evan Rourke wasn't forced into Marissa Mercer's car. He stepped in calmly, almost casually, like someone meeting a familiar friend. His posture didn't show fear. It showed trust. That single detail shattered every assumption about the case. The next morning, Kincaid arrived at the Mercer home with a warrant. Marissa was sitting at the dining table when the officers entered, sipping a cup of tea she didn't seem to taste. Marissa Mercer, Kincaid said, "We need you to come with us." Marissa blinked once, slowly, then set her cup down with trembling fingers. "For what?" "We have questions about your relationship with Evan Rourke." Silence filled the room like smoke. "I told you," Marissa whispered. "I barely knew him." Kincaid held up a tablet, displaying the footage. "This says otherwise." Marissa's face drained of color. Her hands curled inward, as if bracing for impact. But instead of collapsing, she straightened her back, gathering herself. "Fine," she said quietly. "I'll talk." At the station, behind the cold metal table of interview room 2, Marissa finally allowed the truth to escape the prison she kept it in. "I knew Evan," she began. "I knew him long before the repairs he did for us, before Danny even met him." Kincaid waited. "He was my friend. At first. Then more. It wasn't supposed to go anywhere. It wasn't supposed to matter." Her voice cracked with the weight of the confession. "I ended it months ago," she continued. "But Evan didn't want to end. He said he loved me. Said he'd burn everything down if I didn't leave with him." A chill ran through the room. "So he started threatening you?" Kincaid asked. Marissa nodded. "He said he'd tell Danny. My parents. My church. Everyone. He said he'd ruin my life if I walked away." The pattern was clear. Evan was extorting both spouses, using different leverage on each, playing them like pieces of a chessboard. But something still didn't fit. "Why was he meeting you at the creek?" Kincaid asked. "Why that night?" Marissa hesitated, then pulled a crumpled slip of paper from her purse. Evan's handwriting scrawled across it. "Meet me tonight. We talk or everything burns." Kincaid studied her. "You went there willingly?" "Yes," Marissa said softly. "I thought I could reason with him. I thought I could explain that it was over. But something happened." Tears spilled across Marissa's cheeks. "He wasn't supposed to die," she whispered. "I swear to you, detective, he wasn't supposed to die." Kincaid leaned forward. "Tell me exactly what happened." Marissa inhaled shakily. "When I got there, he was different, angry, desperate. He grabbed my arm and told me I had one more chance. He said he had proof of everything. He said he recorded our calls. Her voice tightened. I panicked. I pushed him away. He slipped. He fell back into the creek bed. His head hit a rock. I didn't mean to. Kincaid listened intently. Marissa's panic felt real, but the timing, the details, they didn't match the wound patterns on Evan's body. This wasn't a fall, Kincaid said gently. The autopsy shows blunt force trauma from at least 2 angles. That means he was struck more than once. Marissa froze. Marissa, Kincaid said. Who else was there? The basement, the tracker, the coded notebook, the burner phone, Daniel's mysterious call from a block number, the second set of footprints, the cigarette with lipstick. Every loose piece suddenly fit into a single terrifying truth. Marissa wasn't the only one hiding something, and Daniel wasn't the only one Evan had been manipulating. Marissa's lips parted, but no sound came. Finally, she whispered. It wasn't supposed to involve him. I only wanted to scare Evan, to make him stop. I hired someone to threaten him, not to do this. Kincaid's pulse quickened. Who did you hire? Marissa's eyes filled with dread. The same woman who took those photos in Chicago, she said. She wasn't a stranger. She wasn't a temptress. She was a private investigator, a fixer. She works with people who want secrets to stay buried. The cigarette, the blue fabric, the surveillance gap, a professional. Her name? Kincaid demanded. Marissa swallowed hard. She called herself Lena. I don't know her real name. Kincaid stood abruptly, stepping into the hallway. Get an APB on a woman named Lena Perez, alias unknown, early 40s. She's involved in blackmail and possibly murder. But before she could continue the order, an officer rushed toward her, breathless. Detective, Daniel Mercer is gone. Kincaid's heart slammed into her ribs. Gone? How? He checked out of the hospital on his own. Security camera shows him leaving in a taxi 10 minutes ago. Kincaid's mind raced. If Daniel had learned the truth about Marissa or about Evan or about being set up, he might be running. Or he might be going after the person who started everything. Trace his phone. Kincaid ordered, now. Minutes later, the result came back. Daniel's phone pinged in a familiar area, one the investigation now revolved around like a dark gravitational pull. The creek, the text said. He went back to the creek. Kincaid's breath tightened. She drove there with lights and sirens cutting through the early night. When she arrived, Daniel's figure stood at the edge of the shallow water, illuminated by her headlights. His arms were at his sides, his expression hollowed by betrayal, fear, and realization. You figured it out, didn't you? Kincaid called out. Daniel didn't turn around. She didn't mean to kill him, detective, but the woman she hired, she did. Kincaid stepped closer. Daniel, we can help you both, but you need to come with me. Daniel finally turned, tears streaking his cheeks. I just wanted a normal life. I just wanted everything to stay together. But now, a twig snapped in the woods behind them. Both turned. A silhouette stepped forward. Female, steady, calm, holding something metallic in her hand. Detective Kincaid, the woman said smoothly, "You're early." It was the fixer, the woman known only as Lena. Kincaid reached for her holster. Too late. A flash, a click, but not a gun. A phone. She held it up, smiling coldly. Everything is recorded, Lena said. And unless you walk away, this whole story becomes very public. Very fast. Kincaid squared her stance. You're not walking away from this. Lena smirked. I already have. A second silhouette moved behind her. Another accomplice. Kincaid's team burst through the trees, surrounding them. Drop it, an officer shouted. Lena's smirk faded. For a long moment, the forest held its breath. Then Lena lowered the phone, letting it fall into the creek with a splash. This wasn't supposed to get messy, she said softly. It already is, Kincaid replied. The arrests were swift, the evidence overwhelming. Daniel was cleared. Marissa was charged with conspiracy and obstruction. and Lena's criminal network unraveled piece by piece. When the dust settled, Willow Ridge was never the same, nor was the Mercer family. Kincaid closed her final report with one haunting line: "Secrets don't destroy lives. The people who protect them do." And for the viewers of the story, one truth remained. If you think this case was dark, you haven't seen anything yet. Subscribe so you don't miss what comes next.